Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Gleemen Podcast. I am your host, Vance, the Bard of the Red Hand, rebranded now on YouTube, joined, as usual, by my friend Matt, who has finished a couple more books in the Wheel of Time.
How's it going?
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get his impressions, thoughts, feelings on The Lord of Chaos, what he thought about it, and, just the same thing we've been doing for each book. Hopefully listeners will appreciate his views. Typically we find that new readers bring new perspectives to the Wheel of Time and often make us think about things we possibly didn't think about on our first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 45th reread in some cases. So yes, let's go ahead and jump right in. Matt, Lord of Chaos, what did you think?
Oh, I loved it. It was such a great book.
Such a great book.
It was... Yes, it was. There were so many chaotic moments and so many moments where I was like, what the heck?
Wait. There were
I said that
moments?
So many times.
There were chaotic moments in The Lord of Chaos? Is that what you just said?
Okay. Yes. And just so many moments where I literally, while listening or reading, at like a coffee shop or something like that, safely.
Sure.
I would just out loud just say, what the heck? So many times.
Yes, perfect. I found myself doing the same. I was listening to when I was listening to the audiobooks driving to work, when I used to have my commute, I would do the same thing just in the car by myself. I'm sure some of the other morning drivers, I didn't have morning drivers because I worked second shift. So some of the other lunchtime drivers were wondering, what the heck is that guy listening to that he's just flipping out over there?
But yes, it was very chaotic. Yes.
Good.
In a good way.
Good. That's awesome. So,
had one of the most epic battle scenes ever, finishing out with that.
Really? The most
gosh.
epic.
Or I wouldn't even call it a battle scene. It was a massacre.
Yes, that is a more correct
Much more
term,
accurate,
I would say. Yeah.
Yes.
So, let's go ahead and just kind of run through the general plot. I won't have to run point by point, but let's get into some characters. Like, who was your favorite character?
I think...
Or characters. It can be more than one.
I think Matt. Matt was my favorite character.
Now,
yes.
Has he been your favorite the last several times?
I
think you
so.
edged him out in Fires of Heaven for,
I
Nae'Blis
think
and
sometimes
Elaine.
it's been Nae'Blis, sometimes it's been Perrin.
Mm-hmm.
But this time it's Matt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know it was Perrin, back in somewhere in the first three books. Yeah.
Yeah. He is in this one, so that's nice. But doesn't play a huge part, I don't think.
Right, yeah. I mean, after being absent for a full
until
book.
Kind of near the very end.
Yeah, after being absent for a full book, he kind of comes back into the fold and then is I mean, he does stuff. He has pivotal roles to play.
Oh yes.
But he doesn't have a lot of stuff to do until those pivotal moments. So yeah, it's just kind of, and I mean that makes sense. He's already had a pretty big, I don't want to say story arc wrap up, but like the first part of his story arc has already been completed, and so we're gearing up to the next part. He became
Lord of the Two Rivers, got married, and has a growing army following him. So, he's doing good.
You think that's going to end up being pretty cool?
I don't know if it's going to get bigger, but I think it's going to get maybe more specialized, I feel.
I just meant you think Perrin is a new power dynamic in the world.
Yeah. It just kind of seems like both Perrin and Matt, they kind of collect people, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
Their own personal armies are made up of... Perrin's is mostly made up of Two Rivers people, but I suspect, just like Matt, he's going to pick up people along the way who, from different nations, were like, yeah, I'll follow him. That sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's kind of how Perrin's Ta'veren nature works, right?
Yeah. And I mean, that's how Rand works too, all three of them.
Well, Rand's Ta'veren nature is way more powerful. And he can't control it.
Oh, yeah.
Perrin doesn't really have control over his either, but Perrin's Ta'veren nature brings him what he needs. Is kind of how it works.
Yeah.
And so he just kind of gets a lot of stuff, and it twists people to work in ways that benefit Perrin getting to a specific goal. So, like, I mean, I think you've seen it. Perrin kind of got pushed into being the Lord of the Two Rivers, right? Like, so he didn't necessarily take up that
the fact that he's
himself.
like all constantly, burn me, stop calling me Lord.
Yeah, I know.
So forth and so forth. And they're like, yes, Lord Perrin, I will stop calling you Lord Perrin.
Well, it's the same dynamic Rand had in The Great Hunt, right?
But I mean, he's accepted it.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, sometimes he gets angry when they don't give him his honorifics.
Yeah,
true. Rand, depending on who it is.
So what did you think about Matt's plotline in this book?
The reason why I like Matt is because I loved his plotline.
All right, let's dig into it.
So Rand goes and is like, hey, why don't you follow Egwene and go and grab Elaine for me? And maybe Egwene too, if she's available. And so with the very little information that Rand provides him, wrong information that Rand provides him, Matt and a small army go from the middle of Tyr, or not middle of Tyr, but on their way to Tyr, to pretty close to Saladar. Instantly.
Right.
And
instantly.
Yes. And Matt thinks, oh, I'm just going to go in. There's only going to be 50 Aes Sedai, and that's it. Maybe less. And there's no army. There's no...
Right.
There's no... oh, dang. What's his name? I'm trying to remember his name.
Give me a description of him.
One of the generals.
Gareth
the
Bryn.
general. Gareth Bryn, yes.
Bryn, yeah.
There's no Gareth Bryn there, of course. Why would he be there? With a giant army?
Except...
But no, there's 200 Aes Sedai there, and there's an army of 5,000?
Hey,
50,000?
Rand's scouts are a little outdated, okay?
Yes.
His intel is good as of 3 weeks prior, right?
Yeah, but and that's one of the things, Rand doesn't have particularly good intel, but it's not that it's wrong, it's always just kind of outdated.
I mean, that's just...
Whenever it is wrong.
Right, well, that's kind of the nature of, the time period.
I'm just saying, comparing it to, Elida, it's just always straight up wrong. How? Who are her eyes and ears? Or not just her eyes and ears.
Well, don't forget that... So what you learned, right, that once you got to Saladar, the blue Aja was the big eyes and ears network, right? They had the spy network. And so likely what is happening is they are feeding Elida false information. Because they probably know, I imagine that every Aja's eyes and ears network is compromised to some degree, but I imagine the Reds probably were infiltrated by the Blues, pretty hardcore.
Probably so.
I mean, that's not speaking to any of the other infiltrations going on in the White Tower, but specifically the inter-Aja politics there. The Blues would, I imagine, would definitely have infiltrated every Aja's eyes and ears and feed false info.
It's just so sad.
But Elida's not...
Or pitiful.
Right. But she's not... It's not she's also just getting wrong info. She literally interprets it wrong and assumes that the only interpretation is hers, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
You know,
and like
she has
even
her foretelling.
But yeah, so Matt has wrong information or out of date information. Like he knows what to expect, but it's out of proportion, I guess, is a good way to put it. So, you know, wrong information or out of date information. Anyways, so yeah, he goes and he's like, just the scene where he goes into the, I guess it's like the ante room or just like the mother's room, the Amerlin Seat's room, and sees, because he thinks he's gonna see the new Amerlin,
right?
And he goes in there and he sees Nynaeve and Elaine and Egwene.
Yep.
And Nynaeve and Elaine are wearing their shawls.
Yep.
Or whatever. And
That's
are,
new.
you know, dressed up like real life Aes Sedai.
Yep.
And Egwene has the stole of the Amerlin Seat draped over her. And sitting on the Amerlin Seat's chair.
Right.
And Matt is just, doesn't give them a chance to talk at all. And it's like, what are you two doing? Thinking he's trying to save them. Oh my gosh. That scene, that is one of the scenes I am absolutely looking forward to seeing in the show.
Oh yeah.
The show. I think that'll be hilarious.
Right. Well, what did you think about Matt's little I'm not gonna let anyone treat a two rivers woman this way?
Oh yeah. No, like he totally they don't appreciate how much he is willing to stick his neck out for them. Like, is he an idiot sometimes? Sure.
Yeah.
Does he not read the room sometimes? Yes. But he is willing to, like, lay down his life for these girls. And it's just never appreciated. Just never. What are you gonna do?
Well, I mean, that's part of Matt's, like, character development, right? Like, he has, and that's
never
to a degree, that's
respected
one
for
of
what
the,
he brings.
Well, and to a degree, that's kind of part of the themes of, like, at least the interpersonal themes between the Emmonsfield Five, is that everyone assumes they're the same as they were when they left the two rivers.
There's no growth.
Right. And then so they all treat each other the same way they used to. So, like, everyone thinks Matt's just a total jokester and kind of a fuck up. And everyone thinks Perrin is overly quiet and overly reserved.
No.
And then everyone thinks Rand is just, you know, good-natured but dumb farm boy. Like, you know, he's gonna eventually make a decision that's so Rand, and he's gonna go do a joke with Matt, and they're gonna get in trouble. And so then the boys think you know, Egwene is...
They don't see Rand studying and studying and studying.
Well, and it works for all the other... Like, it works for all the characters that way, right? Like, they don't know what Matt... They don't know everything Matt's been through. They don't know everything Perrin's been through. They don't know everything Rand's been through. Rand doesn't know everything Egwene's been through. We don't know... We get a lot of what Nynaeve goes through, like, as readers. So... but, you know... They don't know that how much she's changed, and so a lot of them treat her still like the wisdom, and she holds on to that. You know, I think through at least she's still holding on to it.
She does hold on to the fact that, you know,
and that causes her to treat them like little kids, not like adults.
Even though she's like 6 years older, and that's about it.
I mean, 25. She's between 25 and 29.
Yeah.
So. That's a pretty big age gap at that age. Just throwing that out there, bud. Like,
I guess when they were all born, she was probably like somewhere between like 6 and 8, or probably.
I mean,
Anyways.
you should see that age gap with your line of work, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just saying.
But yes, that was his whole entire storyline of him dealing with the Saladar Aes Sedai was just so great. And, all of them expect him to be old Matt, like you said.
Yep.
But he's not. He's a general or whatever.
A reluctant general.
And yes. But of a very strong fighting force. It's small, but strong.
And what's the name of that fighting force?
The Red Band.
What? The Red Band, not the band
The
of
Red
the Red
Band.
Hand? The band of the Red Hand?
The Band of the Red Hand. Okay.
The band of the Red Hand. Come
Yes.
on. Not the Red Band.
Yes. Okay.
So come on. But yeah, anyway, Matt's got his own little mercenary company.
Yes.
What do you kind of think about the side
And he's
characters?
a dad.
Well,
Like he's not a dad, but let's be honest, he's a dad
talk about Oliver.
to Oliver. Totally. Like he's the first dad
Mhm.
in this series.
Yeah, he adopts that kid.
Like not married or anything like that. Trying to run away from marriage from the mysterious daughter of the Nine Moons. But he's the first one who ends up with a family. Well, Perrin does, but he's the first one who ends up with like a kid to care about,
Yeah.
Which is just kind of funny.
Yeah, what do you think of Oliver?
Interesting kid.
Mm-hmm.
For them to introduce him, I feel like he's going to be important later on.
Okay.
Like either he's going to get kidnapped or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be important.
Okay. So no further theories right now. You just think he's going to be important.
It's too
later on?
early. It's too early. I don't know.
That's fair. You didn't get a ton of time with him in this book. Like they just do his introduction and he's kind of hanging around. What do you think of some of Matt's captains and lieutenants and banner generals in his band? There's a colorful cast of characters there, right?
Oh yes. Very colorful. But they all seem to care about Oliver in their own unique way too. So it's like me and my 5 dads or something like that.
I could see that being a sitcom.
You could do a spin-off sitcom with Matt Cawthon and Oliver and his 5 dads. I'm looking forward to that now.
Yeah. If they ever get the spin-off sitcom rolling, that'll be
they're all very colorful and they all have their own unique flavor of like one of them does lancers, one of them does
one of them.
footmen.
You don't remember their names, I see.
I don't. Okay, there's so many.
So what do you
expect
think
me to remember everyone's name in the Wheel of Time? And it's like every book introduces 50 new characters.
Hold on. I expect you to remember Talmanes, Nalesian, Estion. Come on, buddy. These are important Red Band members. You got me doing it. These are important members of the band of the Red Hand.
Good stuff.
Right. Well, switching gears a little bit, what did you think of the Saladar plot line, just in general, with Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene down there? And all the secrets they've been learning.
Some of it was unexpected. The fact that they kept Mogideon. And just basically farmed her out. Turned her into a more compliant version of Asmodean. Pretty much.
Well, I mean, they did have her enslaved. We will just point that out.
Yes.
I get
There's a lot of like
maybe technically a prisoner is better term there because they're not like breaking her will or anything. But I mean,
except they do occasionally.
They do.
Like, Asmodean was a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
But they use the IDOM and, like, they can feel that she is terrified all the time, and sometimes they make her even more terrified on purpose.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they're trying to get the info, right? They're trying to get any Age of Legends weaves that could be useful, any intel on the Dark One, Dark Friends, so on and so forth. So, it's hard because it's definitely like a moral and ethical issue, like dealing with human rights. But
like, at some point,
on top of that,
when do you become someone who's like, yeah, you haven't sold your soul to the Dark One, but you're doing all the same things they are?
Right. Yeah, well, that's like the whole question around, like, the ethics of war and prisoners of war and
although
stuff
you're
like
only
that.
doing it to one person. But still, it's
still, it brings in all those questions of, like, how do you treat prisoners of war? And they definitely view themselves at war, right? Like with the Dark One. Like, there's no question in their mind that this is a war, and that they need every edge and advantage they can get. And, you as the reader, that actually brings up, like, because in our world, in our age, war is more definitely like gray. Like, it's always gets painted through propaganda and stuff as an us v them situation, but at the end of the day, like, it's two power structures vying for control of some resources or some soft power, geopolitical advantage, and
you have
the common folk are the ones
different armies fighting each other,
right?
Plus the civilians,
and the common folk often get tied up in a whole bunch of problems. But in this world, it's a very real existential threat against a metaphysical being of anti-creation. It's kind of a different. The morals and ethics around it become a different conversation, I think. About how far you can go. I've never really, like, I haven't thought much more than I've just stated on it here. So I'm no ethics professor in here to be talking about it, but it's just interesting, and it's something I didn't think about on my first read through very much. I was just like, oh yeah, she's just getting her just desserts because she's a bad guy. Kind of, the simplistic surface level read that I think is
really
just
her
easy.
just desserts would just be execution, Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Or stilling in permanent imprisonment or something like that,
Right.
It's like, it's kind of like Vader trying to learn the dark side to heal Padme and inadvertently falling to the dark side. I don't think that's what's going to happen to, Nynaeve and Egwene, but it kind of brings up that in my mind,
right?
That could be a possibility.
You brought this up earlier. It does parallel Rand and Asmodean a little bit, right? Like, although Asmodean did have his link to the Dark One severed, so that that's a slight difference, but still, I mean, he's definitely a war criminal and someone who went over to the Shadow in the first place. So even though that link, that metaphysical link, spiritual link is severed, the person that made that deal and arrangement is still very much there. So I think, it's Jordan did this as kind of a parallel with a little bit different power dynamic. And
they're
I
very
think he is
different
exploring
prisoners of wars, and the way they're treated is very differently too.
Right. He did this as a little bit of a meditation on possibly the ethics of prisoners of war and using enemy tactics,
a lot of ethics
and intelligence, like their methods against them, and what does that do to you?
There are a lot of ethics problems in this book specifically.
Oh yeah, well,
so
I mean,
many.
it's the Lord of Chaos, right? Like, we've already had the Shadow Rising, it's risen, and now
you've got Alana And you've got Elida's embassy stealing Rand,
kidnapping,
and then beating him every day and every night.
Mm-hmm. About how long did that go on?
It was hard to... I think they said it was like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think before Perrin got to them and he escaped himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about right. It was like 3 weeks or a month or something like that.
Right. And how long was Egwene Damane? I just want to see if you remember how long she was enslaved.
I'm trying to remember. It was like a few months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
The whole time Rand
and that's why
were in
she's
the
so strong.
Portal Stone. Yes, that is why she's so strong. But like, this is just often a point people bring up when you're talking about Egwene and Rand, and like they'll bring up his emotional trauma. And Grant, like, I don't want to downplay it. Rand is definitely traumatized from this event.
Yeah.
Moving forward, it definitely affects him. But we don't see Egwene's time.
Like,
as in granular
at the same time,
detail.
like, you can't really compare people's trauma, you know?
Right. I mean, I agree, but Egwene was in a similar, possibly worse situation for a lot longer, and I think her trauma manifests in different ways throughout the series than Rand's does, which, I mean, you've seen a little bit of post Lord of Chaos.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she is terrified of the Shan-Chan. But she didn't seem to mind torturing Moghedien through the Idom.
I mean,
even though she experienced that.
Right. Well, I mean, so there's actually like psychological phenomena or instances where people who have had a bad experience are less empathetic to those who then go through the same bad experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of the trauma associated with it, right? Like that's why like when adults see teenagers going through a lot of their growing pains, so to speak, they're not
just like,
particularly...
I went through that, and it was no big deal.
Right. And I mean, when you come out the other side of that, in a lot of cases, much of it is not a huge deal. Like looking back on what I thought was big when I was a teen, I realized I was young, hormonal, and blowing it out of proportion, just like every other teen. But some of that stuff does affect people and stay with them for life. And brushing it off like that is just it's partly a coping mechanism and partly just just the way our brains process stuff. So yes, I think that's an example of that happening with Egwene in this instance. It doesn't help that Moghedien is a Forsaken and has been taught to be one of the most evil, vile things, and not actually a human in their minds. Keep like they were elevated past humanity in a lot of the stories that went on, and they basically became demons. So they probably have some issues seeing Moghedien as a human anyway. But I
mean, they told boogeyman stories about the Forsaken, so
right. They were literally monsters in their like how they conceived them. So now they have one attached to a leash. Anyway, back to Rand in the box.
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrible. It is terrible, but I just wanted to bring that up. And
then you got Rand and Alana.
Yeah.
That ethical mess there.
Oh, lots of issues around consent there, yes. 100%.
Yes. And I'm trying to remember. I think we were briefly told that Alana felt everything that happened to Rand. But, like, they just kind of skipped over that.
Well, that's just part of the water bond. I mean...
Yeah. But, like...
You've kind of been... Jordan's been prepping you, like, for this moment, like, with what few hints about the water bond you've been given so far. And now he's getting ready to really explore, like, what happens with it, And you've seen it a little bit with Elaine and Birgitta. So... you're getting into the point where the bond is going to be more explored in the books here. It's not just going to happen in one book. So Just I'd take that one at what it is at this point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think RJ was trying to find ways to flip the script on consent issues, because sometimes you know, men don't take them seriously, and so when he flips the script on it, and people get outraged, and it's like trying to make you self-reflect a little bit about, you know, what happens when the power dynamics flipped. How do you feel about these things? Because that's how you should feel about them when it's not flipped. So you know, he's not always successful, but he definitely I think is trying from some, what do you call them, good intentions. So.
Yes. And I'm trying to think what else is going on in this book. I mean, at the very beginning, I mentioned it last video, but at the very beginning, Rand meets Mazrim Titan.
Yep.
And I still think he's Demandred.
Okay, yeah.
I still think he is.
Okay.
In disguise.
Well, so, yeah, and we didn't really touch on the prologue of this book, which is like one of the longest ones in the series. So, you know, with Demandred and Missana and Grendel and everybody going down into Shale Ghul to have their meeting with the Dark One. It's the first time we really see a lot of these characters kind of actually coming out. Like, we've heard whispers about them, we've heard them talked about, but now it's like the round 2 of the if you were to like structure it like a shonen style anime, like with tournaments and stuff, this is like the next bracket of the tournament, you know, like Baal Zaman and Bilal and Ravine were like the first tournament bracket, and now we're moving into tournament bracket number 2. So, and we
got
to upgrade the spirit gun.
To what was his name? Shaidar Haran, who is just very intimidating.
He is extremely so. He's very unsettling.
A Murdral who is like you chosen, you better go and do what I say, because I am over you. Haha. Even though I'm a Murdral.
Yep.
Which leads me to believe that he is actually like an avatar to the Dark One.
Solid theory.
I think that's what I think. Yes.
Perfect. What do you think about the getting introduced to these other Forsaken through Demandred's eyes?
That was pretty Demandred. Demon. You Demon. Dread.
Yep.
Anyways. I thought that was pretty interesting. And you know, we're introduced to the idea that, like, basically it's like a roll call pretty much. That very beginning part. It's
right.
Like, all right, who's still alive? Who's still here? And, you know, Ravine's dead. Lanfear's missing. O'Gideon is missing. And so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
And the Great Lord is aware that you know, Asmodean is dead, but he's a traitor, so who cares? And so, yeah, that's pretty interesting. And we also learn some of the lore about, like, what goes on in Shale Ghul. With, like, the merge roll and how the blades are created.
Yeah.
And yes. It's just more lore the better. Like yeah, I like the lore of like the politics and things like that, but when you get into like the fantasy lore, that's where I'm like, ooh, that's good. Give me more.
You're getting into the, like, you've had the more like, I don't want to call it surface level world building, but like the more grounding stuff take place, and you're getting into the parts of the books where the metaphysics start becoming more upfront and stuff like that. So
speaking of that, like the whole entire description of how Nynaeve healed Schwan and Leanne.
Yeah.
And also Loghain.
Yeah. I've been waiting for you to get to these points. Lots of stuff happens in this book.
Like just like the description of that, all the technical stuff of her going through that was so good. I love that sort of stuff. The more of that, the better. Like I guess, what do they call it? They call it delving, right? When you're trying to figure out what's wrong with someone.
Right.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Good.
And so, Loghain is even set free at the end.
Well, and not only that, but like Nynaeve healed
Stilling.
Severing. She healed Stilling and Gentling. She healed both of them in the same book. I mean, it's the same thing, Severing. Yeah. But yeah, she found a way to heal it. So
I suspect Loghain's probably gonna join the Black Tower.
The farm. So the farm is such a trope in like fiction. Like whenever you're setting up a new operation, what do you call it? The farm. Or you need like a place to escape to. The farm.
No, like, okay, hey, we played Destiny. You know where we went?
There was the farm.
Whenever
That's
the
what I'm
tower
talking
was
about.
destroyed,
like
the farm.
Yeah, whenever you need a fallback, you just go to the farm. I mean, you see these Fables comic books behind me? They even have a farm where they keep all of the animal-like Fables instead of the ones who can't live in the city. That's where they live, on the farm. So, I mean, the farm, it's such a trope in fiction and fantasy in general. Like, it's amazing. So... But I mean, that's pretty solid. What'd you think about Rand putting Taim in charge of the farm?
Like, it's just so, like, I get why he did it, but even Rand knew it was a bad idea, but like he had no choice.
Who else knew it was a bad idea? Somebody rooming with Rand, right? Someone else knew.
Theron.
Yeah.
What he is now buddy with after living in a box for 3 weeks.
Right, yeah. What did you but I mean, what'd you think about all the stuff he was telling Rand, like as soon as he saw Taim, like
kill him, kill him.
Just shouts and shouts and shouts, and I'm like, dude, like, you know, so I know they typically say don't listen to the voices in your head when you think you may be going crazy.
But you know, maybe you should.
But in this instance,
this is why I think he's Demandred.
Yeah.
That's a reason why. I mean, also because I still have no idea where he is.
Or what he looks like.
We saw him
really,
in Sheo Ghul. Yeah. But, like, that's all.
Well, and you don't really know what he looks like either. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like.
But I mean, Asmodean gave a description of everyone. So. So Rand would have a general idea of what to look for.
Right.
But we already know that you can make yourself look like anyone.
Right. Well, so what are some other hints that Taim might be Demandred? Anything he said specifically?
I don't know. I just feel like his attitude.
Did he use some words that possibly people from this age don't use? I'm really fishing here, Matt.
Yes. The Mahale and whatnot.
And what did he call Gentling and Stilling? He didn't call them by those terms. He called them...
he called it Severing.
Severing, right? Which is an Age of Legends term. And all the other Forsaken use it, yes.
So that leads
Didn't he talk about some so-called Aiel as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
do you think he's Demandra?
I think that's right. I kind of think so. But now I'm not so sure because I feel like it's like too obvious. Oh gosh.
Welcome.
You're making me think. You're making me think twice now.
I'm just pointing out all.
I'm
the
still going with
evidence that's
Demandred.
available. Okay, that's fine.
I'm still going with
fine.
Demandred.
That's fine. You can. I'm just pointing out all the evidence you got in this book.
And we've got Arengar and Osengar.
Yep.
Come back to life
Mm-hmm.
from Bethamel and what's it? The guy's name?
Agnor.
Agnor.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, you know that they've been brought back to life. Do you know where they're at? Like, what they're doing? Other than meeting
I know,
in Shell Ghoul, like, what are they doing out there?
I mean, I know Arengar is now part of Solidar.
Yeah, I felt like that one was the easy one to make the connection with.
But I don't know where Osengar is.
Right. That's going to be... I think that's going to be an interesting one for you to try to piece together. You do eventually find out. Jordan will flat tell you, but... you just... what's the word? That one caught me a little off kilter, like, because I had no idea who he was at the time.
But yeah, Halima being Arengar.
No, Bethamel. Wait, yes, Arengar. Yes, Arengar. Yeah,
Bethamel. Now Arengar.
Bethamel, Arengar.
Bethamel, the man, is now Arengar, the woman.
Yes.
Although he is a man at heart because he uses Sidene.
Well, and thinks of himself as a man still, just in a woman's body, making him a trans man. So.
Yes.
See, even you had to stop.
I had to think.
That. But that's the way. That's
He can use Sidene.
Right.
Which means his soul is still male.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
So.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on from that. Yeah.
I feel like that will just open up a whole can of worms that
it does.
Many videos about.
It does all the time. In fact, I made a video about how someone could be how souls can be transmigrated by the wheel by itself without the Dark One's intervention. So if you want to go check that out, it's over on thegreatblight.com. While you're there, go ahead and check out the store at shopwheeloftime.com. Pick yourself up a Red Rod Terangriel while you're there. This was not paid for by Nae'Blis, so if he was paying me, there would be a little bit more time dedicated to it. But that's all the free advertising I'm going to give Naebs. What did you think about Rand meeting with some of the Rebel Aes Sedai in... I can never remember if he's moving between Caemlyn and Kyrian. I never remember where he meets them at.
Caemlyn is the Rebels.
Okay.
And Kyrian is
the Tower group. Yep, the Tower Aes Sedai. Yeah. It just gets confusing because this is kind of where all the books start blending together for me.
Yeah.
A little bit. So, and then Rand is... It's the first time we're really seeing gateways used like in the story. And so he's gatewaying between these two sea cities and these two countries that are right next to each other. And I'm just always confused about where he's at. Like, so I have to kind of take a moment and get a geography check.
Yeah. Like, they talk and they they make their bows and here are gifts and here's what we can do for you. And Rand is just basically just stringing them along, seeing how much he can milk them all until he can... I don't think he actually used this word, but he wants to basically just bring them to bear and have them pledge allegiance to him instead of him having to pledge allegiance to one group or the other. That's what he wants. And he's actually able to do that, at least with a small group of the Rebel Aes Sedai at Dumai's Well. And so, that's good. But their negotiations don't really go anywhere.
Right.
And I kind of feel like Rand is not a particularly good negotiator.
Or maybe leader.
Like he kind of knows what he's like. he knows how to talk to people, but he doesn't know how to make deals, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
And you also see that in the fact that he just completely ignores the sea folk. He doesn't care what they have to say about him, because he doesn't even know they're not in the Carathian cycle.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in anything about the Aiel stories. The Aiel,
right?
About the Karakarn.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, who cares? They just have a whole bunch of boats and islands. Who cares about them?
Yeah, I mean, the sea folk get a rough treatment in this book. I couldn't remember the word for a second. So yeah, that I don't want to spoil much. I know you're actually on Winter's Heart now, so you kind of already know that they end up not doing very much for the next few books. So, which is disappointing to me, because I actually thought when we were first introduced to the sea folk and traveling on a sea folk ship, I thought it was really neat, and they're a little bit out of their element, right? Like they sailed up the river, and so it's just kind of a lot of the story is landlocked and they're ocean based. So I guess there's feasibly not much for them to do. But anyway. Okay, go ahead and lead into Demise Wells.
I think I'd like to just kind of end with my feelings on the epicness of, like, it's not even a battle at Demise Well. It is a massacre.
Right.
I mean, it starts off as a battle, but it definitely doesn't end that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it really allows you to see in the short time what Mazrim has done.
Yeah.
To create this. I mean, they're soldiers. They are dedicated. They are. What's the third one? Ashaman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what, Guardians or something, right?
I believe so.
I think that's right.
I'd have to look it up. I'm not a walking encyclopedia of old tongue definitions, unfortunately.
But yes, so like you see what the one power, when you dedicate them to only, like, to basically make soldiers from the power, what that can actually do. And it is very destructive.
Oh yeah.
And it was amazing. It was so amazing to see the visuals.
Right.
Like, or hear the visuals, read the visuals.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so this really is where we're getting into, since book 4, really, we've been getting into the large scale battles of the series. Like,
and they just keep getting better and better.
Right. Well, the Battle of the Two Rivers is actually quite small in retrospect. When you look at the Battle of Kyrian and then the Battle of Demise Wells. These are actual battles. The Battle of Kyrian from the last book, and then the Battle of Demise Wells. Whereas in any other sense of the word, the Battle of the Two Rivers is actually a skirmish. But it was a battle for the Two Rivers. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that's the most violence that area has seen in thousands of years. But like, on the scale of
there were only like 1,000 Trollocs,
Maybe I'd have to go watch Nae'Blis's and Unraveling the Patterns video. They did a video breakdown of the Battle of the Two Rivers, Matt, which you should go watch. You can watch that now. And they have the numbers in that video. And for the listeners, if you haven't seen that awesome work that they put together, it's on both Nae'Blis's channel and Unraveling the Patterns channel. So go check it out. Go watch it twice. Give them each of you. It's really good. You should definitely watch it. But yes, Demise Wells is, it starts off as a conventional battle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as conventional as a battle with the one power against Aiel can be.
Well, I mean, even the Aiel were using one power too.
I forget he's there, but Godwin's there with some of his younglings as a military
And like
force.
We hear they're there, but they aren't actually involved much in the battle.
Well, they're like kind of...
They're
just
behind the bubble.
They're protecting the Aes Sedai mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
since they were in training to be warders. But yeah, then Perrin shows up.
And then Rand busts out.
Does he Kamehameha that box?
He stills 3 Aes Sedai and like kills a few warders. I think he ends up killing a few Aes Sedai too. I can't remember. Maybe 2 Aes Sedai. I'd have to look it up.
Just from the explosion, maybe. Yeah, I'd have to go back.
And, he tries to join the battle, but no, he doesn't really have to, because you got like 20 Ashaman or something like that who just clean house pretty much.
What's the
described
quote?
It as.
What's the quote?
I'm trying to remember.
The quote is Ashaman.
I think they
kill.
Yes,
that's the order.
Yes.
And then just the wholesale slaughter.
And then begins. They do.
Yeah.
They do.
I think they say it's the first time ever that they forced an Aiel army to retreat. Like it's the first time Aiel have ever retreated in like an actual battle, not just like a Aiel style skirmish. So pretty impressive stuff. In terms of like battlefield control and destruction, not like but yeah. So yeah, and I mean obviously like this battle is like the shifting point of the series, kind of like it shakes up the entire world in terms of how it's been set up for the last however many thousands of years. So but yeah, it's a powerful book. The ending of this book is is good. I like it, and I think a lot of fans like this ending. Probably it's one of the top ranked endings of the series. Like it's definitely in a lot of folks' top 3.
Well, sort of like Do Might As Well isn't really the ending; it's the chapter before.
Well, I mean,
and then
Matt,
you go back to Saladar.
Yeah, but anyways, that's the end of the book. Like the last 5 chapters is the end of the book.
Yes. Yes. Okay. All right.
You've got this weird concept where like the end of the book has to be the last chapter, and I'm like, I don't understand.
But then you get Moghedien being freed by Halima.
Right, yeah. And that's when you really find out. That's the big reveal for Halima.
Not Osengar.
Arengar.
Arengar.
Yep. Osengar is the other one that you don't know who he is yet.
No.
Well, you do know who he is, but you don't know where he is, I guess I should say.
Yeah. I don't know where he has placed himself.
Right. So, yeah, it's a lot to unpack in this book. A lot more than I remembered, actually. I mean, we didn't even touch on, like, going to Shadar Logoth and losing that one maiden. Leah, I think her name was. Just adding another list to his name.
Whenever. Yep.
So. But yeah.
Good stuff.
Powerful ending. So, I'm gonna say that about wraps us up for this episode. We talked for a lot longer about this book than I thought we would, which is always a good thing. So, yeah. Go ahead, everyone out there. I want you to have a fantastic day, week, month, however long it is before we get the next few episodes of this podcast out. We've basically been going monthly here for the last little bit, and I guess we'll try to keep up that release schedule at least till Matt is finished with the series. Then we might look at maybe upping our releases for this podcast. But till then, I think once a month is good. That lets Matt get decently far into reading, so we have enough stuff to talk about. So yeah, for those of you out there in podcast land, I'd really appreciate it if you drop a rating and a review on the podcast. That helps out with discovery. Further, for those of you who will be watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon for more Wheel of Time content from both the Gleemen Podcast and the Bard of the Red Hand. And we will catch you next time.